All right, sweet. Flatline MMA podcast episode number 45. The Flatline boys are back. Did we take a week off? Did you guys even notice? That's what I thought. But oh, wait. I don't know if you guys noticed something different, but we just dropped some new merch. We got Blood Splat tees, Blood Sport tees. Go to our website. Go buy them, whatever you want. We got tees. We got hoodies. We got crew necks, tanks, mugs, masks. Get your Flatline apparel. Support the boys. Let's get right into it, buddy. UFC Vegas 7. I think we knew this was going to be a fun one, just based off of the kind of main event here, right? I think a lot of, if you're some casual fan, I think you probably didn't hear most of the names on this card, right? But I think it ended up being, honestly, really, really fun. We had a couple of, big upsets. We had some big comebacks. I think we had if we're looking at the prelim card, I know we had the Tevin Jones fight, Tamir Valiev, huge comeback for Tevin Jones. So that was great over when he had an absolutely terrible first round, getting his ass kicked, come back with the second round TKO over Valiev, which was huge. And then I think we had one of the bigger moments on the card too. We had Shayna Dobson just upsetting, I don't even know if I'm going to say her name right, Maria Agapova. Dodson was like a plus 800 underdog in this. She was not supposed to win, and she just came, kind of shocked the world. Second round TKO, really making a statement for herself, which was that was huge to win. We had a Boston boy, hometown boy, Mike Rodriguez, getting it done in the first, TKOing Marcin Precino. So obviously love to see that hometown kid. But let's just get right to the main event. We knew this one was going to be fun. We had Frankie Edgar dropping down to Bantamweight for the first time in his career. It looked good. I think even when he stepped on the scale, man, I think he looked, you know how when most people cut weight, you look at them and you're like, holy shit, like they do not look good. I thought Frankie looked natural, man. Obviously, you're going to get the skin and bones there, but I thought overall, I mean, he said the weight cut, he did it well. And I think he definitely found his weight class here. He took on the always dangerous, the finisher, Pedro Munoz. And this one was, I feel like, definitely an important fight. Pedro had the number 5 next to his name. Frankie, who's obviously a 155-pound legend, dropping down really, we'll say 2 weight classes, but really 1 weight class because he was a featherweight. And we knew this one was going to be a war. And holy shit, great fucking fight. Kev, dive right into this. What'd you think about this fight overall?
Yeah, there were a lot of questions for Frankie coming into this one, being, his first time in this weight class, how the weight cut was going to go. He's not a huge dude as it is. He said making the weight was pretty easy. They just had to start the weight cut a little earlier. There's a little bit more preparation, but I think he's like 5'6" or something like that, which most of the 135-pounders are right around that height. So, but he had that. He's 38 years old now, which is getting up there for this sport. And he had 2 losses where he got knocked out, which coming back from that's a tough thing. So there were a lot of questions for him coming into it, but he looked awesome. He didn't rely too much on his wrestling that whole first round. It was just a boxing match. Him and Pedro kind of traded. And yeah, I think he looked awesome, especially his stamina too. Like that fight was the same in the first round as it was in the 5th. Same amount of action. They were both going for the finish. It definitely could have went either way too. Pedro was kind of stalking Frankie the entire fight, going for the power shots. Frankie was hitting him with combos, moving side to side, using his wrestling a little bit. Pedro chewed up that front leg with the leg kicks. You saw that have a big effect on Frankie, especially at the end of the fight when he was limping around afterwards. But yeah, it was a true, like Don Cruz said at the end, it was a true split decision. Like, could have went either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree. I think it was, a lot of questions for Frankie coming in, right? Like you said, 38 years old, right? He's had his ups and downs the past couple of years, right? Coming off losses of Max Holloway and Korean Zombie, right? You fight those two guys, you're never going to be the same. And then you got a guy like Pedro Munoz, who's kind of always been lingering around that, the top 5 area within the bantamweight division. Obviously, huge knockout win over, Cody Garbrandt. And then, he took on Aljamain Sterling. Didn't go his way, but still a top 5 fighter, right? Throw Frankie right in there for his first 135-pound fight. Definitely a lot of questions, but, I was super impressed with Frankie's combos, man. I thought he was just letting his hands go. He wasn't being shy. Even while his leg was just getting, eaten by Pedro. And I agree. I did expect a lot more wrestling from Frankie. And I thought that was going to be most of the fight, but this was a true just stand-up war. And like you said, man, they got off the stools going into the 5th. And did you see any of them breathing heavy? I didn't even see it. So you got to, attest to them for just being so tough and, having their cardio right for this fight. And I think overall, just impressive performance by both of these guys. I don't think, Pedro should hang his head. Great friggin' fight, man. And that's what you want to see with a fight like that, with one that it's kind of a sleeper, man. And I knew that going into the weekend. I was like, you can't miss this one. This one's going to be good. Because when Frankie shows up, he's got, the biggest heart in the game. And I don't think anyone can take that away from him. So, awesome fight. Now, you said it could have went either way. Do you agree with Frankie winning? I know Pedro came out and said, he got robbed. I don't see a robbery here, but I agree. It could have went either way, but I think at the end, I agree with Frankie winning, to be completely honest.
Yeah. Like when you look at the fight, Pedro spent the majority of the fight pursuing Frankie. He was kind of stalking. He had that octagon control that the judges score on. But, in terms of output, Frankie was throwing a bunch of combos. Pedro was kind of sitting on his punches, trying to land heavy punches. So Frankie appeared to be the more active fighter, in my opinion. It's a lot more movement. It looked like he was throwing a lot more punches. He was mixing it up a lot more, too, when he was throwing the takedowns in there as well. Pedro was wearing a lot more damage on his face. He was cut up. I think after the second, I think in the second he kind of got cut up a little bit. But then again, Frankie's, you could see his front leg was visibly damaged by the way he was walking around on it. So in terms of damage, how do you rate that? You got one fighter that's cut and one that's, his front leg wasn't useless because he was throwing kicks with it and stuff, but you could see it was definitely hurting him. But I think the big things for Frankie were the takedowns. I think the strikes per round were relatively the same. I think Frankie outstruck him in a few, and I think Pedro outstruck him in the last one. But in the 5th round, Frankie almost had that knockdown too, which you got to put on the scoreboard too. So I think with all those factors, you could make an argument for Pedro, but I think the stronger argument is for Frankie.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. I know, obviously, as a fighter coming off a split decision loss, you're going to have something to say. I don't believe it was a robbery. I think you're right. I think it had all the makings to go either way. But, if I was a judge in there, I would have gave it to Frankie too. I think, I think Pedro took the harder shots too. And good for him, man. He took some nasty uppercuts from Frankie, and he stood there. He ate them. He didn't even move. It's so impressive. And we all know how tough Pedro Munoz is. He's never been finished before in his career. He's an absolute savage. But you got to give it up to Frankie here, man. Guys in his late 30s, still going, man, in a new weight class, cutting a ton of weight. I wouldn't say a ton, but cutting more weight than he's used to, and getting it done versus a guy who's dangerous, a guy who's in the top 5, which brings you to my next question, right? Assuming Frankie gets Pedro's number 5, what's next for Frankie? Because he's now a top 5 fighter, hopefully when the rankings come out. Taking a look at, the rankings here, right? You got Frankie at 5, Corey Sandhagen 4, Cody 3, Sterling, Marlon Moraes, and then Peter Yan, champion. So it looks like Sterling and Yan are going to fight, right? Cody's dropping down to take on Figueiredo.
Yep.
Where does that leave Frankie? Who, does he fight someone ranked higher than him? What do you think is the best next fight for him?
Yeah, I mean, that only really leaves Marlon.
Yeah.
Um,
Corey basically in the top 5.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think with his history in the sport, he definitely deserves a fast track to the title.
Of course.
With pretty much all the different things he's done for the UFC. He's taken a lot of short notice fights. He's taken, he's promised title fights that fell through, and he still fought. He showed up for the card. So he's done the UFC a lot of favors. I definitely think he shouldn't be fighting anyone under 5. Maybe Sandhagen or Marlon.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously 2 tough fights for him. We all know what Marlon can do. He's an absolute animal in there. And then obviously Sandhagen coming off that loss, the quick submission from Aljamain. It does definitely question what's next for him too. I don't know. Do you see maybe the UFC kind of throwing, I don't know, maybe like a Legends fight? Like let's just put Edgar versus Aldo, or let's throw Dom Cruz back in the mix, Cruz versus Frankie Edgar. Like, do you see them doing something like that just because the top 5 is kind of tied up with everything right now?
Yeah, those would be big fights. I guess it just really depends on what Frankie's goal is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the type to sit out. He's not the type to say, I'm not going to take this fight because I want someone higher in the rankings. So I think him versus Cruz. Does he already have 2 losses against Aldo?
Let me see.
I know he's
He does. Yeah, so he fought him back. Oh, no. Yeah, he fought him back at UFC 156 and then UFC 200. So, yeah, he's already got those 2 losses. So maybe they don't make that again. But I don't know. It just kind of makes sense, I guess. They'll be 5 and 6, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see him and Dom Cruz. I mean, I think that'd be a pretty good pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That would get a lot of buys. There's so many fights though. There's so many tough guys in this division that would still be, like I would watch him fight Rivera. I'd watch him fight. Actually, I think him and Merab are both. They might be from the same camp.
They're from Mark Henry's camp. So yeah, I doubt that would happen.
Yeah, like Cody Stamann.
Yeah.
I think those would all be fun fights. Yeah, I think he's got a lot of possibilities down at this weight.
Yeah, like you said, it's really dependent on what he wants to do, and I think he said he wants to make one more run at a title. And like you said, man, if you're in the UFC, you're letting Frankie, do what he wants, especially after that performance, man, taking out a guy as tough as Pedro Munoz. So props to Pedro, props to Frank. You guys gave us a great Saturday night. That's what you like to see out of a fight night, man. Like a main event like that, just 2 guys going to war. Frankie Edgar getting his hand raised in the split decision. Congrats, Frankie. You're an absolute savage. So moving on, let's take a look at this weekend's co-main and main event at UFC Vegas 8. They're just flying through these UFC Vegases. I love it. Let's just look real quick. We got in the co-main event this weekend. We got, the notorious, absolute savage Robbie Lawler taking on Neil Magni. This one's interesting, man. You got, Robbie Lawler, who's obviously, been in a little bit of a skid, right? He's dropped his last 3. He's coming from, RDA, obviously tough guy. RDA has been in there with everyone. Decision loss. Then he had that kind of controversial, submission against Aspirin where, we don't know if he tapped. He went out. Did he go out? Whatever. And then, he had that unanimous decision loss against Colby Covington back last August. So basically coming back from about a year layoff, taking on a guy like Neil Magny, who kind of is in the opposite direction. He's on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Lee Jinglang and then Anthony Rocco Martin. Pretty decisive wins too. He's someone that's kind of always been a force in this division. He just couldn't kind of make it over that hump there. So I think this one is very interesting because it always seems like you beat Robbie Lawler, you're kind of boosting yourself into the rankings here, boosting yourself in the top 10, top 5, all this stuff. So how do you see this one going down, and kind of what do you think about Robbie Lawler versus Neil Magny overall here?
Yeah, I mean, even though Robbie Lawler is coming off a few losses and Magny's got a 2-fight win streak right now.
Yeah, 2-fight win streak.
I think Lawler is just too powerful.
Think so?
Yeah, I think the way he hits, if he comes out like the way he did against Askren, where he was just on a mission, just complete destroyer. I think it's gonna be a tough fight for Magny because I don't see Magny finishing Lawler. He's gonna have to take him all 3 rounds. He's gonna have to deal with him for 15 minutes. So I like Lawler's chances in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to see a Robbie Lawler fight, right? When has that man ever had a boring fight? I mean, even in the Colby Covington fight, in the back of my mind, I was always like, Robbie's 1 shot away from finishing Colby. And, like, I always had that in the back of my mind. Like, every punch he threw, like, Robbie throws it with force. He wants to hurt you. He's an absolute killer. But he's going up against a guy, Neil Magny, who's kind of talented everywhere, man. He's definitely proven himself. And I think, he had a couple injuries, and he's finally back, healthy. He's ready to go, coming off a really impressive win of Anthony Rocco Martin back in June. So, he definitely wants to be active this year. I know he said that, and I know he's making his run for the belt here. So beating a guy like Robbie Lawler is, like I said, the stepping stone. So, but I'm going to agree with you, man. I think Robbie Lawler is just someone who comes to fight, and he's going to pressure you, and he's going to break your will. I know it's been a while since we've seen that, but I think we're going to see a vintage Robbie Lawler performance. I think he's going to put a stop to Neil Magny here. I think he's going to finish him, man. I think he's going to finish him, and I think it's going to be a really, really fun fight. But regardless, both of these guys, absolute savages, so this is going to be a fun fight. Definitely could have been a main event on a fight night. Well, both these guys well-known, can bring in the viewership, so I'm super excited for this one, but I'm going to go Robbie as well. So tune into that because that's going to be a fun one. Let's get right into the main event here real quick. We have Anthony Smith taking on Alexander. I'm going to say Rakic. I'm just going to say it that way. You got a light heavyweight clash. Obviously, Anthony Smith, former title challenger, faced John Jones, right? He's coming off of a really kind of a one-sided loss to Glover Teixeira, really controversial, people saying that his corner should have stopped the fight. He was really getting damaged pretty bad in that fight. So kind of curious to see where his mind is here, especially coming off that. And that was pretty recent. That was back in May, so beginning of the summer here. And he's taking on a guy, Alexander Rakic, who, coming into the UFC, definitely a lot of hype behind him. I think he won 4 straight. Beheading friggin' Jimmy Manuwa with that massive head kick, and then ultimately losing kind of a split decision to Volkan Ozdemir in his last fight last December. But like you said, split decision, could have went either way in that fight. I remember watching that, so I know he wanted that one back. But he's taking on a guy, Anthony Smith, who's tough to put him away. The guy, Lionheart is his nickname for a reason. He's an absolute beast, man. We saw him in there with John Jones take a beating. We saw Glover Teixeira put a beating on him, but he doesn't go away easy. So Rakic's definitely got his hands full here. So, Kev, what do you think about this main event at UFC Vegas 8?
Yeah, I'm going to take Anthony Smith in this one. I think just the level of competition that he's faced in the past and kind of some of the obstacles he's been able to push through, it's going to be tough for him to be put away. And his striking so good. His boxing's really sharp. So then we go with Anthony Smith on this one.
Yeah, hate to agree with you on both all the fights we talked about, but I'm gonna go Smith. I think he's gonna make a statement in this one. Obviously, wasn't happy with his last performance. There was a couple of things that he said before the fight and all that stuff, but he's not an excuse guy. So I think he's gonna come back. I think he's gonna make a statement. He's one of the toughest guys in this light heavyweight division. So Rakic, obviously, someone who's been on a little bit of a roll, coming off a loss too. So curious to see how he kind of comes in with his mindset. He's not going to want to put that, bring that fight to the judges because he doesn't want another split decision. So he might come out swinging. We've seen him with KO powers. We've obviously seen what Anthony Smith can do. So I'm going to go Anthony Smith as well. I think he's going to put him away too. So I think he's going to make a fucking statement. So UFC Vegas 8. This was going to be a fun one, boys and girls. So make sure you tune in. And then finally, just want to wrap up with a couple of fight announcements that we did post on our Instagram, but I kind of wanted to get just some quick predictions here. Kev, we had a couple awesome fights announced here. Brian Ortega versus Korean Zombie. Not till October, but give me your early prediction for that fight because I can't wait for that one. That's going to be fun. There's bad blood in there. This one was supposed to be last December. It got pushed, and it got pushed again. These guys don't like each other. Who do you got in this one? Because this is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, it's that classic matchup of striker versus grappler, and it's who's gonna be able to implement their game plan better. So I think Ortega's striking is good enough to stand with Korean Zombie for a little bit, but his jiu-jitsu is just so high level. I think he's probably going to catch him.
Really?
If the fight goes to the ground, yeah. We've seen him do so many. Hasn't been a while since we've seen him last fight. Now, when was his last fight? It wasn't the Holloway fight, was it?
Holloway fight. He was supposed to fight Zombie in December, but that fell through. He got hurt, and then Zombie knocked out Frankie. So it's been a while since we've seen Ortega.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, because that fight was mainly, a boxing match.
Yeah, we saw that.
Then his Frankie fight, he had a knockout, but everything before that was all submissions.
Yep.
So I think he's probably going to revert back to that. I don't know. Korean Zombie, he's pretty crafty too. He's winning his fight versus Yair Rodriguez, who is another pretty elite striker. He's going to be preparing for the jiu-jitsu game, preparing for the takedowns, for the cage work and all that. So he'll probably have a plan for that.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going Korean Zombie all day, baby. I love Korean Zombie, man. I love the way he fights. He, I want to see that man fight for the title because I think he's an absolute monster. I think he's a problem for anyone in that weight class, man. Although I agree, Ortega is next level grappling. I don't see Zombie taking this to the ground. I think it's going to be a straight up boxing match, and I think Zombie's going to get it done early. He's been a little bit more active than Ortega. I think that affects it, man. You know what I mean? Ortega's been a while since we've seen him, and he took a beating from Max Holloway. Tough as nails. I'll give Ortega that. He took maybe 400 shots to the head that night. That was crazy. But that definitely takes a toll on you. And when you're taking punches from Korean Zombie, I think it definitely affects his chin. So I'm going to go Zombie on that one. That's early prediction. October 17th is that fight. And then real quick, 2 seconds, just because this fight isn't official yet. Dana White got asked at the press conference. Tony Ferguson signed a bout agreement. Is it versus Dustin Poirier? He said probably, which that means that fight's about to be signed. Early predictions, Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson, which is looking like it's going to be on the October pay-per-view. Who do you got real quick?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's so tough. I don't want either to lose, bro.
Yeah. I never ever go against Ferguson, but I think he's gonna get into a striking battle with Dustin, and Dustin is just more technical than he is, and I think he's gonna catch him with some hard shots. I think it's going to kind of be a repeat of his Gaethje fight.
Oh.
Where Poirier is going to be landing the harder shots more frequently.
You're breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart. No, I a little bit agree with you. I do. And, Tony took a beating in his last fight. And again, what Tony are we going to see, man? I would love to see, grappling Tony. I would love to see him darce Dustin. You know what I mean? I think that'd be huge. This is just a fight I don't want anyone to lose because I love both of them. Obviously, Poirier coming off of, potential fight of the year with Dan Hooker. That was awesome. Good to see him back in the win column. And then you got Tony Ferguson, who, didn't have to take that Gaethje fight, took the beating, got the belt, just slipped right under him. So it would be good to see him get that win. But early predictions, no prediction. Fight of the year, I'm not even going to say who wins. Fight of the year, that's all I'm going to say. It's going to be absolutely nuts. So, but cool. Wanted to just give those two because they were kind of, fight announcements. I know Dustin Tony's not confirmed yet, but it will be probably this week. But that's it. UFC Vegas 8. Go watch that shit. ESPN Plus. What do you got, buddy? All right, cool. Like we said before, if you want to cop some merch, we got the Bloodsport tees now out on our Teespring site. Click the link below to get yours today. CBD, Venom products, Trifecta. Click the link below. We got coupon codes for all of those. So go support the boys and get to it. Until next time, Flatline MMA. Peace.